Good morning. I'll try to catch you up here from last week if you weren't here. We talked about finding fault in people, and we were very good at this. You know, there's a lot of things we're not good at, but this is one thing that we are good at. When you find the fault of somebody, you really let them have it. And I can't help but to think that God's disappointed in us in some of the ways that we react to people. We spend a lot of time tearing somebody up when we find a fault in them than we actually do trying to help them or correct them, to be kind and gentle. We love to spread things around. And we think we're good at it. You know, we'll just whisper. We'll say, hey, just between you and me, I got something to tell you. You're doing it. And then that person says, hey, just between you and me. Just between you and me. Pretty soon it's everybody. And it'll tear somebody up. It can ruin somebody's life. You know, I'm not a political kind of person, and I'm not going to stand up here and try to be political here this morning, but this gentleman that's running for the Supreme Court, is it? Appears to be a good man, and they found something, and he will never be the same. For something that he might have done, I don't know whether he did it or not, I don't want to go there. But you see what I'm getting at? We love to dig up dirt on people, and we love to spread it around, and we're part of this. And this is not what the Bible tells us to do, not at all. Your initial response to somebody is to like them. I think. Maybe I'm the only person that feels this way. But if Josh walked up to me and introduced himself and we talked a little bit, I'd walk away and say, you know, pretty good guy. I like him. Until somebody came along and said, hey, I saw you talking to Josh. Be careful. Let me tell you what I know about Josh. And here it goes. And what they're trying to do is because they might not, and I just used you, there's nothing wrong with Josh. But just because they maybe have something against them, they want you to have something against them. We want people to think like we do. And I won't pick on you anymore, and I better not do you. I meet Kyle, and you know, the first thing is, nice guy, I like him. And somebody comes along and says, hey, you're friends with Kyle. I saw your friend Kyle on Facebook. Let me tell you about Kyle. Because they got something against him. They want us to have something against him. We need to stop this. We are Christians. And we have a book to tell us how to act. So we're going to continue talking about this today because I'm not done giving it to you good yet. We've all done this kind of thing. Everything is based on somebody's response. Their response to you, the response that you saw them giving to somebody else. And God tells us how to respond to people. And we don't do very good at it. Before I get into too big a rant here, I'm going to tell you one other thing that is not going to sound very good, and if I could turn off this live broadcast we got going, I probably would. Wink, wink. Christians spend more time tearing up other Christians and other churches than they do saving souls. We are the worst. We really are. Now, some of you are going to understand this, and don't think less of me. You might find that this is a fault in me. Two people in a bar, having a good time. They get into an argument. Now, first of all, you're going to find fault with them because they're in a bar, right? Because we're Christians. We do this. They shouldn't be in there, they say. Shouldn't do that. But I'll tell you what, you take two people in a bar and they get into an argument with one another, and I'm telling you this because I know. They get into an argument with each other. They can even get into a fist fight. And in 5 minutes they'll say, dude, I'm sorry. I don't know what come over me. Do you know a Christian that'll do that? We hold grudges. We judge. Something will happen and we start shunning one another. And boy, do we spread stuff. But of course, we're doing it in confidence, right? Confidential stuff. Two Christians talking to each other. It's confidential, right? And then you find somebody else and that's confidential. Who's the worst at this? I don't want you to be. This group of people right here, I want to start with you right here. We need to control some of this, and our response to things has got to change. Because our first response to somebody that hurts us or offends us is to tear them up. And make sure that all of your friends know what you saw, heard, or think. Your goal is to tear them up, whether you do it face to face or through somebody else. And we run wild with this. Matthew chapter 5 is all about loving your enemies. How are you doing with that? Put up Matthew 5, let's do 43 through 44. Jesus is speaking here. You have heard that it is said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your enemies, bless those who curse you, do good to those who hate you, and pray for those who spitefully use you and persecute you. How are you doing with that? I've stood up here many times before. You know, if Kelly walked up here and kicked me, I'd probably kick her back. When it says right there, I'm not supposed to. I'm supposed to pray for her, and Kelly's never kicked me. So you got to throw in a disclaimer, or somebody will find fault in me, and it'll be all over YouTube. How are you doing? How are you doing praying for your enemies? Now let me define enemies here, because now I know a lot of you right now are thinking, well, they're not really my enemies. And in this message that I give you when I talk about hate, it's you know, we're all going to have a different gauge of hate. And even though we don't like somebody, we're going to say, well, I don't hate them. Well, you might. Hatred is something that we're not supposed to do. And it's actually kind of an emotion, but you can control your responses. You can control your actions. An emotion might come over you of hatred, but you can do what you choose to do. You can control your actions completely. Love your enemies. I mean, that's not even natural. And I'm not very good at it either. I'm working on it. And I want you guys to work on it too. And maybe we can work on it together. Do you know how hard it is to love your enemies? To pray for them? I've been trying this. All this week, I took people that I know hate me. And I prayed. And I prayed. And I prayed. That's tough. Nobody hates you, right? Not that you know of. You don't have any enemies to pray for? Thank you for admitting it. We have people that don't like us. Let's face it. Can you pray for them? How are you doing with that? Instead of praying for yourself, pray for those who have hurt you, that you don't like. Don't curse them, but love them. We're bad at this. Really bad at this. We want revenge. Somebody hurts me, I want to hurt them back. Somebody hurts my wife, then I want avenge. I want to avenge my wife. I'll get you. I'll get you. I'm thinking up reasons how I can get them. They are my enemy. And I have hatred towards them. Truth? You bet it is, whether you'll admit it or not. We have hatred towards people, and we cannot pray for them. And when we do pray for them, it's cheesy. That's a cheesy prayer. And you're kind of doing it just because it says to do it, right? Please, God, help my enemies. And then you go right on to ask him what you want. Romans 12:14. I think I got a slide for that. Bless those who persecute you. Bless and do not curse. How you doing? About now, I figure somebody's probably thinking about somebody in their head, family member, friend, whatever it is. We all got some. Persecution actually means to separate you, pull you away. In the Bible, a lot of times it means death. To prosecute somebody means to put them to death. Death would be separation from God. Could you pray for somebody like that? And yet we're supposed to. But what we find ourselves doing is trying to tear them up. You hate them. They are your enemy. And when you see somebody talking to them, associating with them, you want them to know what you know. If I don't like somebody, I don't want you to like them. I don't want you to like them. I know you probably like them, but I don't like that. So then I don't like you. I'm using myself as an example here because I'm going to piss off somebody. Now, see, I shouldn't have said that. Just about the time I thought my words were getting so much better. Now, you're going to find fault in that, and you're going to go tell somebody that he just said piss in church. And then they're going to tell somebody else and say, somebody will say, hey, that guy over there, he's not so bad. He's a pretty nice guy. And they're going to say, you know what he does? I got a video of it. Right? Because Christians spend more time tearing down other Christians in other churches than we do to actually get together and have the same purpose to save souls. We're part of it. And I want you to stop. We're supposed to love those that hate us. Love is an action. Doesn't have to have this warm, fuzzy feeling. You don't have to go up and start holding their hands with them when you walk with them and hug them every time you see them. Love is an action. It's meeting their needs. It's putting them in front of you. And we spend more time talking about people and tearing them up than we do concerned about the person on the street that does not know Jesus. Some of you are probably really good, and this message is not for you. It's for me. It's so natural. When somebody kicks you, you want to kick them back. And you want everybody to know that they kicked you. Now you fill in kick with whatever you want. You can do one thing. You can be a good person, trying your best, and you make one mistake. You say piss in church, and they'll probably go after me now. Is that a fault? That's what we talked about last week. Is that a fault or is that a mistake? We take people and want to ruin them. Kind of. You don't think you're too bad. You just want to hurt them a little bit. You want them to know that you know. And you want them to know that you're not all good with them. We make our little points, you see. What if God did that to you? We are supposed to treat one another the way we want to be treated. So if you do that to somebody, and I know it, can I make the assumption that that's how you want to be treated? What if God got mad at you the way we get mad at people? Right? We get mad at people and we don't want to speak to them ever again. I'm never going to talk to you. What if God did that to you? You think you ever made God mad? God said, you know what? Because of what you've done, I don't ever want to speak to you again. That's not fun to think about. You know, because of what you did to me, I'm going to shun you. I'm going to ignore you. I'm going to tell people what you did to me. I don't ever want to see your face again. What if God did that to you? You know, now let's take something kind of minute. Is that right? Is that a word? Kim, you probably know your words. Is that a word? Minute? Whatever. Small. And trying to think up something here. Maybe I will use you. What if somebody said to me, you know, why don't you go on a diet? Okay. Now, instant enemy, right? Somebody said, well, I don't like the way you got your hair. They'd be your enemy. And if I don't like your hair, they'd be your enemy. And you say, I don't ever want to talk to these people again. You know what they said to me? God has asked you to do certain things and told you to do certain things, and we don't do them. Would that make you mad? Would that make you mad enough to shun them? To block them from your life? Unfriend them on Facebook. Isn't that what we do now? Or we just unfollow? Something like that. I'm not a techie at that, but... Okay, so I said, Kelly, would you go out and move my car? It's in the way. And she doesn't do it. I'm like, man, I asked you to do it. What's up? You know, well, I won't ask her to do that again. But God asks us to do so many things that are small. And we don't do them. What if He treated us that way? You know, your children, a lot of you in here are parents. You ask them over and over and over to pick up their room and don't leave their bikes in the driveway, and they don't do it, and you get mad. You think God's mad at us for not doing the things that He asks us to do? Would He have a right to be? But of course, we fall back on, God forgives me for everything that I do. And so do parents, usually. But you're still a little upset with them, right? What if God said, I don't ever want to speak to you again? You did not do what I asked you to do. I told you not to do these things, then you just keep right on doing them. You don't honor me. You don't worship me. You don't love me. So away with you. Ever think about it? Not a very uplifting message this morning, is it? I'm going to put the blame on somebody. See, I'm talking about finding fault. So I'm going to put the blame on somebody. We have an enemy that hates God. And just like us, what he does is he tries to go around and get all of his friends to not like God too. And that's what's happening to us, whether you like it or know it. And he's whispering little things in our ear. You think God's good, right? Didn't get what you prayed for yesterday, did you? If you knew what God allowed to happen in my family, you wouldn't worship God. Doesn't this sound like a group of people sitting around? Our enemy hates God and wants you to hate him too. And he wants to put in your head, just the way we do to other people, that he is not good. He will not do what he says he'll do. You know, God told me once he'd take care of everything and he didn't do it. That's what Satan does to us. He wants you to hate God. Just the way you have somebody that you don't like, you don't want other people to like them. You got a little fault in this because you're listening. Prayers aren't getting answered fast enough. Your God's not so good. Didn't heal that person, did he? Your God's not so good. You asked for a lot of things. How many have you gotten? Your God's not so good. Does that sound like somebody that wants to tear down somebody else? That's what we do to each other. And that's what he does to God. And we can do better. Christians are terrible at this. Absolutely terrible at this. We have this stigma with us when we tell somebody that we're a Christian, because in the past we have been judgmental. We have been very critical. We are condemning of people that walk into churches. They don't look right, they don't act right. You're sitting in my seat. Grandma Smith has sat in that seat for 50 years and you're sitting in her seat. We need to stop it. When you have a Christian friend that you're trying to tear up, you know they are a God-fearing person, and you don't like them, and you're trying to tear them up. You are spreading things around about them. Now, I'm just talking about our believer friends right now. Here's what you're doing. 1 John 4:20 through 21. Would you put that up on the screen, please? If someone says, I love God, but hates a fellow believer, that person is a liar. For if we don't love people we can see, how can we love God whom we cannot see? And he has given us this command: those who love God must also love their fellow believers. Let's just start with church people for a minute. When the outside sees church people acting a certain way, they get talked about. And Christians are being talked about because they're not acting right. Now see, I'm actually doing it. Somebody's probably watching this online right now and it's going to spread like wildfire. But you've got to admit, think about places that you've been, people you've talked to. We don't treat other believers like this. You know somebody is a God-fearing person, but you don't like what they did or that they've hurt you. You will tear them up. And it says right here that you are a liar. You do not love God. You call yourself a Christian, and you are a liar. Ouch. Abby, would you get ready? We are supposed to respond in love, period. No, there needs to be no more red there. When somebody walks up to you and does something that hurts you, that you don't like, that makes you uncomfortable, that you think is wrong, you do not have the right to talk about them. You can simply walk away and keep your mouth shut. When we first started down here in Lanark, I did about 3 messages right in a row about keeping your mouth shut. Just plain talk. Keep your mouth shut. And it will take care of 90% of all the arguments we ever get into. If you could just keep your mouth shut. But he actually tells us how to respond. And I want you to use Jesus as an example of how to respond. He's the perfect teacher, right? He shows us how to respond. Here's a couple things for you. Luke 23, verse 34. Jesus is hanging on the cross. They're killing him because they hate him. And this is what he says. Can you do that? Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they do. They're trying to kill him, and they're doing it. Not just kill him, torture. And he prays for them. He asks for forgiveness for them. Can you do that? Can you try that when somebody just hurt you a little bit? Now, I don't imagine there's too many people in here that are probably being chased to be killed. Maybe there are, I don't know. But let's just say somebody said something about the way you look or the way you drive, or they said something about your spouse or something. How many of us can respond in this way and say, forgive them, Father? They don't know what they're doing. They're hurting us. How about something that's unintentional? How many times has somebody done something unintentional and we tear them up? Intentional is one thing. Unintentional is completely different. When they went to get Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, Judas had betrayed him, and they were coming to arrest him and get him. And he had a couple of apostles with him, and they didn't want this to happen, of course, and they went to stop this mob of thugs coming to get him. And one of them takes a sword and starts to fight back. And he chops off the ear of one of the thugs that are coming after Jesus. And what's Jesus do? He touches his ear and heals them. Can you do that? Somebody's going after you. They're trying to cut you down. They're trying to cut down somebody you love. Can you act in this way? Luke 22, 49 through 51. Then Jesus' followers saw what was going to happen, and they said, Lord, should we strike with our swords? And one of them struck the servant of the high priest, cutting off his ear. But Jesus answered, no more of this. And he touched the man's ear and healed it. Can you at least say, no more of this? Stop this. It's all about our response, and we're supposed to respond in love. Sometimes responding in love is keeping your mouth shut, walking away, saying nothing to no one. Jesus can heal your heart if you'll allow it. And by keeping your mouth shut and doing what Scripture tells you to do to respond in love, you might have a chance. But when you start responding in all of these adverse ways, putting people down and hurting them, you're just keeping the cycle going. There's not going to be any healing there. Jesus can heal your hearts. The man on the cross, the thief on the cross, was healed just like that. He didn't know Scripture. He didn't know anything. But just like that, he said, this man has done nothing wrong. Could you say that? Let's do better at responding in love. Let's stop the bickering. Just stop it. Just hold on to it. The greatest strength God ever displayed was holding back his wrath while we killed his son on the cross. He held it back for you. Jesus died for you and prayed for them. How about we just give it a little shot? If Jesus did it, we should do it too. I want you to all think about somebody that you have something against. Family member, friend, and I want you to pray for them. Maybe it's your heart that can be healed, if not theirs. Can we try? Can we do better at this? Can we give Christianity a good name again? that it actually means something? Morals, values, purpose, instead of being judgmental, gossiping. I want to start with you guys, and I want you to try to practice it this week. This right here has all the answers. 2 Peter 1:3 says this: we have everything we need to live a life that is pleasing to God. And it's right here. It's an instruction manual on how to please God. You want people to please you, right? Why don't you try to please God? I don't want any of you to have God say to you, away from me. Because that's what we do to people. Maybe we should practice it. Because when our kids see us doing that to people, your kids know who you associate with and who you don't. When your children see you talking about somebody, shunning somebody, separating yourself from somebody, they're going to do it too. This is how mom and dad do it. They hurt me. They offended me. Have you ever offended God? We get offended because somebody won't do what we asked them to do. Right? That offends you. I asked you to do that. I asked her to move my car. The car hasn't been moved. She's been sitting there the whole time. It offends me. How are you offending God? Right here. He's got a lot of things. And one of the things I want you to do this week is to love your enemies. You don't have to kiss them. You don't have to hold their hand and be all fuzzy, lovey with them. Show them some love. Respond in love. Would you put up my summary slide, please? Respond to offenses with love. Pray for your accusers. Don't offend the Lord with hatred. Jesus can heal your heart. Why don't we try? Our relationships aren't worth trying. You've just given up on them. You haven't talked to them for so long. I don't ever want to see them again. It's gone. I don't want to bring that back up. Work on yourself. Work on your own heart. That's what I want you to do. And that's what I want you to do right now. While I pray, think of somebody and pray along with me. Heavenly Father, I'm so sorry for the hatred that I have shown to people, that I have thought about. God, oftentimes the faults that we get mad at is just a mistake. Help me, Father, to respond with love to people. Help me respond to this certain person. Heal my heart, Father. Forgive them, for they don't know what they're doing. And forgive me, because I don't know what I'm doing. Guide us along, God. Help us so much. And let's spend more time trying to reach the lost than to cause hurt to other people. It's in your Son's awesome name we thank you. Amen.